Hi and welcome to your Planning Assistant YouTube channel. In this video, I'll walk you through how to use the Employee Infraction and Leave Tracker step by step, starting from a completely blank template all the way to dashboards, reports, and KPI insights. By the end of this tutorial, you'll know exactly how to set up the template, enter data correctly, and interpret all alerts, charts, and reports. After downloading and extracting the zip file, you'll receive 3 files: a sample file with mock data, a blank template, and a detailed user guide PDF. In this video, we will start by filling in the blank template, so let's open the template file. Let's start with the setup sheet. This is where you define your company structure and rules. You only need to fill in the white cells. Everything else is automated and protected. First, choose a color theme from the 4 available options. The entire spreadsheet will update automatically based on your selection. Under the color theme option, you can set the default dashboard period in days. When the default period checkbox is selected, the dashboard will automatically show data for the last number of days entered here. If needed, you can always enter a custom period manually. Now, let's go to the very right of the setup sheet in the Company Holidays table. In the Company Holidays table, list each company holiday individually. These dates will be used to highlight and calculate non-working days in the calendar sheet. Let's enter August 11th, 2026 National Holiday. Quick look to the calendar sheet, and here we can see that holiday is colored in different color. Back in the setup sheet, left from the Company Holidays table, you will see Small Leave Types table. The leave types table includes 4 predefined leave types with fixed colors. You can rename them, but the colors stay the same. You can add as many as you need custom leave types, but any of those additional leave types you add will use one default color coding and will be counted together in the dashboards. On the left side, you'll find the infractions table. Here you can define as many infraction types as you need and assign point values to each one. These points are used to calculate employee scores and to place employees into the appropriate warning bands once the band thresholds are set. Optionally, you can also enter the cost of each violation, if this information is available to your company. Here you can see example of filled infractions table. As you can see, when you start logging infractions, you'll also see the total count and cost per infraction for the period specified in dashboard here. Additionally, you will have automatically generated chart of the top 5 most costly infraction types in dashboard sheet. Back to our template. Right next to the infractions table, you can set the point boundaries for each warning band. You can also define the action that should be taken when an employee reaches a specific warning level. In the example, you can see that these actions are then displayed automatically in the employees list discussed shortly, on the dashboard, and in the employee's printable report. Now let's look at the middle part of the setup sheet. This is the departments table. Here, you can list all the departments or employee categories you use in your company. Doing this creates clean drop-down lists throughout the template, which helps avoid spelling mistakes and keeps all calculations accurate. You can also set the minimum number of employees needed per day for each department. Once you start entering employee leave, the calendar will automatically show you staff coverage. As you can see in this example, days where you're below the required level will appear in coral red, and days where you're exactly at the minimum will be highlighted in yellow. This makes it very easy to spot staff shortages at a glance and plan ahead. Now let's go and see an example of other template setup sheet. As you start entering data in the infractions log, this departments table will also automatically update. Here is one example how the table can look. You'll see the average infraction points per employee for each department, based on the period selected on the dashboard. You'll also see how employees are distributed across the 4 warning bands, so you can quickly identify which departments need attention, or where a higher proportion of employees fall into more serious warning levels, such as the red band. And finally, let's look at the employees table, located on the left side of the setup sheet. Here, you'll enter all employee names, select their department from the drop-down list, and define their yearly vacation limit in calendar days. It's very important to set the first employment date for each employee. If you're starting fresh, you can simply enter the date you begin using the template. This information is mandatory because the template checks whether an employee was employed during the selected period and calculates points, leave days, and KPIs accordingly. In this example, you can see how the days in the calendar view are grayed out when employee was not employed. If an employee leaves your company, be sure to enter their last working day as well. This ensures they are no longer included in calculations and are not mistakenly counted as high-performing employees simply because no new log entries exist. Keeping this information accurate is essential for reliable KPI statistics. If we look this employees table in example template, you'll see that once you start entering infractions in the log, you'll immediately see each employee's total infraction score for the period selected on the dashboard. In this example, you can also see how the template automatically generates alerts to highlight risky patterns. You may see a dark red alert if an employee has more than one active alert. A coral red alert appears when 2 no-call, no-show or NCNS infractions are detected in a row, indicating a job abandonment risk. An orange alert is shown when an NCNS is followed by another infraction on consecutive days. 3 infractions in a row are highlighted in yellow, and 2 different infractions in a row are shown in blue. At the same time, you'll always see which warning band the employee currently falls into, along with a small color indicator displayed right before the employee's name. Based on that warning band, the recommended action is also shown automatically, so you know exactly what steps should be taken. Now let's move to the infractions log sheet and start entering our first employee leave and infractions data. We'll begin with infraction entries, since they are the main focus of this template. First, enter the start and end date of the infraction. If the infraction happened on a single day, simply enter the same date in both columns. Next, select the employee from the drop-down list. This helps prevent spelling mistakes and keeps all calculations accurate. As soon as you enter this information, you'll notice that some columns are filled in automatically, such as the number of days and the employee's department. Then, in the infraction column, select the appropriate infraction type. Once selected, the corresponding points are assigned automatically. If applicable, you can also enter the number of minutes late and add notes to describe what happened, so you always have a clear record of the event. These notes will or will not appear in the individual printable report depending on your choice in that sheet, discussed later. If an exception is needed and you decide to assign a different number of points, you can manually overwrite the value in the rewrite points column. This adjustment applies only to this specific entry. Important note: when recording an infraction, do not select a leave type in the same row and vice versa. If both are selected, the template will always prioritize the infraction, and the leave will not be calculated correctly. If you need to record both an infraction and a leave, please create separate entries for each. Now let's see example infraction sheet filled with entries so you can see the warnings and alerts in action. For example, if the same employee has 2 consecutive entries marked as NCNS, the template automatically flags a coral red alert, indicating a job abandonment risk. If you then change the second entry from NCNS to a different infraction type, the alert changes to orange, showing an NCNS followed by another infraction on the next day. If both consecutive entries are different infraction types, the rows are highlighted in blue, meaning there are 2 different infractions in a row. And if we enter 3 consecutive infractions for the same employee, the template highlights the sequence in yellow, indicating 3 infractions in a row. It's important to note that these alerts are triggered based on dates and employee history, not on the physical order of rows in the table. Even if entries for other employees appear between 2 records, the template will still correctly detect consecutive infractions for the same employee and apply the appropriate alerts to both entries. If an employee has more than one alert assigned within the selected period, as defined on the dashboard, a dark red alert will appear to indicate multiple active warnings. Now let's go back to our template and add some leave periods. The process is very similar. Just select the leave type in the leave type column. That's all you need to do. You don't need to use the minutes late or rewrite points columns for leave tracking. You can of course add notes if you'd like. That's it. Nothing more is required for leave entries. Everything else is calculated automatically in the background. Now I will demonstrate that the infractions log sheet is designed to minimize human error. at least the types of errors that can be detected based on the data entered. It includes built-in validation and an error check column at the end of the table. Let's hide those columns we don't need for now so we can see the last column of the table in the screen. If a date is entered outside of an employee's employment period, the entire row will automatically turn pink, and an explanatory message will appear in the error check column. For example, Employee 1 started to work in February 1, 2025 as we can see in the setup sheet, and we enter leave in January for that employee, for example from January 10, 2025, till February 15, 2025 Employee 1 is in vacation leave. Boom! Instant error check. Now we see that we entered the wrong month and first of the leave dates. Let's correct it. The same happens if two leave periods for the same employee overlap. Both affected rows will be highlighted in pink with an error message. For example, let's type a second leave for Employee 1 from February 14, 2025 to February 28, 2025. These two leave entries for our Employee 1 now overlap. Again, instant marking of both rows. Now we see that we again entered the wrong date. This time I meant to enter February 24, 2025, not 14th. Let's correct that. Third type of error check. If the entered date range is incorrect, for example if the start date is later than the end date, the row will also turn pink with an appropriate warning. And finally, if an employee's employment start date is missing in the setup sheet, this issue will be clearly indicated as well. Let's delete the employment start date in setup sheet for that Employee 1, and once we go back to infraction log sheet you instantly see the pink coloring. That's it. This is the only place where you need to enter data. All other sheets update automatically. You'll only be asked to select the time period you want to review, and depending on the view, choose an employee or a department. Everything else is handled for you. Now let's move to the report sheet. I'll explain it in more detail. This sheet looks a little different because it's already formatted to print on a single A4 page. In the upper right corner, you can choose whether to use the default period. Remember, that's the number of days defined under the color theme in the setup sheet, or you can manually enter a custom date range. Next, select the employee from the drop-down list, and that's it. The report is generated instantly. You can also choose whether to show or hide notes by checking or unchecking the Show Notes option. The report automatically creates a title that includes the employee's name and the selected period. It also calculates the total infraction points for that employee, displays the current warning band, the associated action, and any alerts triggered during that period. Below, you'll see a detailed table listing all infraction entries for the selected employee and time frame, including the date, infraction type, assigned points, minutes late if applicable, and notes if enabled. If everything looks good, you can simply print the report. One thing to keep in mind: if notes or infraction labels are very long, they may not appear or wrap onto multiple lines and affect the page layout. Also, if there are more than 32 infraction entries in the selected period, a warning message will appear indicating that not all entries fit on a single page. In that case, simply split the period and generate multiple reports. Now let's move to the calendar sheet. Here you can already see key KPIs related to employee leave and staff coverage. To get started, simply select the year you want to review and choose an employee from the drop-down list. Once selected, everything else updates automatically. Here you can also always see if there are errors assigned to the records in infraction_log sheet for the corresponding employee, selected here. One more error check. You'll immediately see all leave types for the selected employee displayed in a calendar view, along with the main leave-related KPIs. These include the total number of working days, totals for the 4 predefined leave types, and a combined total for any additional custom leave types you defined in the setup sheet. Where data is available, the template also provides an instant comparison with the previous year. For vacation tracking, the remaining vacation days for the selected year are calculated automatically. Please note that these remaining days are shown as calendar days, not working days. As you can see, weekends and company holidays are displayed in different colors, infraction days are highlighted in coral red, and leave days are shown using their assigned leave type colors. If an employee was not employed for the full year, the days outside their employment period are automatically grayed out. When you switch between years, the entire calendar updates instantly. Below the leave calendar, you'll find the staff coverage calendar. Here, simply select the year and the department you want to review. The template then automatically calculates daily staff coverage. Days with planned staff shortages are highlighted in coral red. Days meeting the minimum threshold are shown in yellow, and days with sufficient coverage appear in the selected theme color. This makes it very easy to spot potential staffing issues and plan ahead. Here you also can see if there are some problems with entered data. And finally, let's take a look at the dashboard. Here, the only thing you need to select is the time period, either the default period, which is the number of days defined in the setup sheet, or a manual date range if you want to review a specific time frame. No other interaction is needed, everything else updates automatically. Right below the period selection, you'll see the first set of KPIs. These show the average infraction points per employee per year, grouped by employment duration. Employees working less than 6 months, employees working between 6 and 12 months, those with 2 to 3 years of employment, and employees working more than 3 years. This immediately helps you understand whether infractions are more common among new employees or more experienced staff. On the far left, you'll find a list of the top 1,000 employees, ranked by their total infraction score for the selected period. Alongside each employee, you'll see the warning band indicator, total points, and any alerts, using the same logic we discussed earlier in the infractions log. On the right side of the dashboard, you'll see 4 charts. The first shows the distribution of warning bands, so you can quickly see which warning levels are most common. The second displays the top 5 infraction types by count, and, if costs were defined in the setup sheet, their total costs for the selected period. The third chart highlights the top 5 employees by infraction score and shows what percentage of the total company infraction points they represent. The fourth chart shows the total infraction points accumulated over the last 6 full months. This trend view is especially useful for evaluating whether actions taken to reduce infractions are actually working over time. Below these charts, you'll find 8 small tables that break down the top 10 employees and the top 10 departments for each warning band. These tables show total points and percentage shares, making it easy to instantly identify both your top-performing teams and those that may need attention. So that's it. You now know how to set up the template, enter data correctly, and analyze all the results. If you ever forget something, you can always rewatch this video or refer back to the instruction sheet, where everything is explained step by step, essentially everything we've covered here. Oh, and one more thing before we finish. We almost forgot an important sheet, the translation sheet. Let's take a quick look. Here you'll find all text labels used throughout the template. By default, they're in English, but you can easily rename them or translate them into any language. What's great is that you can do this without removing protection or changing formulas. The updates apply automatically across the entire template. This feature makes it easy to fully customize the template to match your terminology or your language, and it's something you don't often see in other Excel templates. That's it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. If you found this walkthrough helpful and you haven't purchased the template yet, you'll find the link in the description. And if you already own it, I hope it saves you time and brings more clarity to your HR work. If you'd like more tutorials, updates, or tips for using Excel templates like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And as always, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly on Etsy. I'm happy to help. Thanks again and see you in the next video.